Hello, welcome back to my world of stuff. As you probably know, I'm a fan of Doctor Who. I do videos on the channel of new episodes, old episodes, retrospectives. I do reviews of all the new media, new Blu-ray box sets and so on, the animations. I've been a Doctor Who fan pretty much all my life since I was that high. And I've been a Doctor Who fan all through my growing up, my adolescence into adulthood. I never let the flame of Doctor Who go out in my life. It's always been there. It's been a constant. And of course, I was a fan through the 70s when Doctor Who was at its peak. And I endured the 80s when things weren't quite so good, when the show was falling out of favour, not just with the BBC who made it, but with the public watching it or not watching it, until it eventually went off air and of course came back 17 years later, triumphantly reinvented by Russell T Davies in 2005. And I've seen the show scale incredible new heights in this new century. And I've seen it dip. I've seen people falling away from it. And I've seen people lose heart with it. I've never done that and I never will. And sometimes being a Doctor Who fan can be a difficult thing, because sometimes it's easy to be distracted by the noise around Doctor Who. It's very easy to get drawn into the fan wars. As we know, and as I constantly talk about on this channel, there's a group of viewers, hate watchers of Doctor Who, for whatever peculiar reason, hate and detest Doctor Who, and have done pretty much since Jodie Whittaker took over the role. And now they hate Ncuti Gatwa and they hate Russell T Davies and what he's doing with the show, this new look he's given it and this new narrative imperative. They hate it. Well, they say they hate it. It's, there's a lot of it's for clickbait, a lot of it's for cash from YouTube by generating content. So they profess to hate it. So there's all that background radiation of people screaming and moaning, Doctor Who is dead, RIP, RTD must go, all this nonsense. And of course, that fire is fueled by the rumour mongers, the press, who get hold of bits of information about Doctor Who which they misinterpret. And they say Doctor Who's going to be cancelled. They say the BBC are going to scrap Doctor Who. Disney aren't going to fund Doctor Who anymore. It's all gone to the dogs. I don't know the truth of any of this. I don't know what the long-term future is beyond this season. We don't know yet. I think there are people who do know, but we don't know. And it is all just speculation and idle gossip and angry shouting and screaming. And it gets very tiring, and sometimes that can drain your energy from actually enjoying the episodes themselves. For me, it's about sitting down in the evening, 7:15 tonight, and watching a new episode of Doctor Who on the TV. I don't do the pre-watching on iPlayer. I know some people do, but for me, Doctor Who is old-fashioned in that regard. In the days of terrestrial TV falling away, Doctor Who is watched when it's on TV, and it always will be. But obviously, now I want to talk about tonight's episode, Lux. And the reason I'm taking this route to get there is because an episode like this comes along and it blows away all the noise. It blows away all the moaning, whinging man-babies who are screaming, "Not my Doctor Who." It blows all that away. It blows all the rumours and the talk of cancellation and scrapping Doctor Who and Disney walking away. It blows that away, and it just blasts onto the screen and knocks you off your feet. Because I'm here to tell you, Lux is possibly the best Doctor Who episode since the show came back in 2005. Yes, welcome back. Lux has finished an hour or so ago. I watched the Doctor Who Unleashed, which followed on BBC Three. Yeah, I'm saying it. I'm saying it again here now. And it may just be the enthusiasm of a great Doctor Who episode that really compels you and pulls you in and completely wins you over. But I can't think off the top of my head of another episode since the show came back in 2005, which has been as perfectly realised as this, as brilliantly written, as fantastically performed, as incredibly created. And there are loads of Doctor Who episodes in this new run which I've absolutely adored and loved. But this is just something very different. And I think it's extraordinary to think that a show that is not far away from its 62nd anniversary, albeit with gaps and so on, can still come up with something as incredibly fresh and dazzling as Lux. And dazzling is the word. It absolutely blew me away. Now, I was very hopeful about this episode because I'd seen some of the pre-screening reviews, non-spoiler reviews, which said that it was something special. And they said it was brilliant. And they said that it was outstanding. And having now seen it, I can only agree. If this is to be the last season of Doctor Who, we don't know. We don't know. I don't think it will be because there's too much riding on the show. The show is still a big beast for the BBC, whoever helps them make it. So I don't think it's the end of Doctor Who. There may be pauses, I just don't know. But anyway, if this was the last season of Doctor Who, I think I could say, well, look, it went out on this season with this episode, Lux. We don't know what's to come. There are 6 more episodes to come in this season. They all look pretty damn good. But any Doctor Who season or any season of TV that can create an episode like this is firing on all cylinders. And that's not something we've always been able to say. I think a lot of people have voiced the view, not unreasonably, that the RTD era 2 hasn't quite clicked in the way that the first one has, either in terms of the audience or in terms of creativity. This one shows, yeah, it has, because this is one of his most sophisticated and well-crafted and well-toned scripts of his entire time involved with Doctor Who. The first 4 years and now this new run of episodes. This is him, I think, finally getting the groove of where he wants to take the show. And I will admit, as you think we have to, that the last season was a bit uneven. A lot of it because of Ncuti Gatwa's unavailability, because there were commitments to other shows that were delayed. And the tone was a bit uneven, and I think that Ncuti was finding his feet. And as I said before, I don't think the Disney money was particularly on screen, but this new season, 2 episodes in, is blasting away any of those doubts, I think, or any concerns we might have had about the wisdom of Russell T Davies coming back, regardless of how many people are watching it and how it's received culturally and what cultural footprint it's leaving. This episode alone is worth him coming back. It's a terrific episode, and it's filled with fizzing ideas and character beats and character moments. Bearing in mind, this is a 43-minute episode. It was a few minutes shorter than last week's Robot Revolution, which I really enjoyed, but this is in another class. There was so much in this. There were slow moments, character moments, nice moments that tied the Doctor and Belinda a bit closer, and some nice moments for supporting characters, which is something I always look out for in Doctor Who stories, because I think in the 21st century reboot, the focus is very much been on the Doctor and the companion, racing through their adventures, and side characters don't get the time that they need. Here, I think they did. The episode starts with this very well-realised sequence in a 1950s cinema in Miami, in Florida. And the patrons in the cinema, there's only a handful of them, are watching a newsreel with nuclear bomb going off, and there are references to the Queen in mourning for the passing of her husband. So that roots us in 1952. And the projectionist, played by Linus Roach, incidentally, son of William Roach from Coronation Street fame, he is changing the reels on the projector for the film, and he puts on a cartoon of his character called Mr. Ring-a-Ding. Mr. Ring-a-Ding goes to town. And we suddenly see a shaft of light coming through the window, bouncing off the equipment and into the projector, and Mr. Ring-a-Ding comes to life. And he's obviously quite malevolent, and he appears to have done something terrible to the 15 customers in the cinema. Cue credits! And then we're back in the TARDIS with the Doctor, still in his costume from the last episode, the Robot Revolution, trying to find a way around the problem that he can't get Belinda back to May the 24th, 2025. And I really like this arc that runs through the series, that there's something about that date. He has to get it back there. He can't, for some reason. The TARDIS bounces off that date. We don't know why. He doesn't know why. Nobody knows why as yet. But the Doctor fashions some sort of, almost like a temporal fishing rod that he says the TARDIS can land, and it will anchor them back to 2024 so they can be projected back to 2024. Something like that. But they end up in Miami in 1952 outside this chained up cinema. It's actually Penarth in South Wales, a few miles down the road for me. Doctor Who productions have filmed there before. Sarah Jane Adventures filmed for its first season there, I think in that episode Whatever Happened to Sarah Jane Smith. And I think Torchwood filmed part of its episode, one episode on the pier there. I'm not sure if Doctor Who itself has filmed there before. So it's not an unfamiliar location for Doctor Who productions in the 21st century. And it's quite interesting and incredible, actually, to see the transformation that they made with one sort of establishing shot of Miami hotels and the streets and so on. And then the focus on this building, which is actually the pier building at Penarth, which they redressed completely to make it look like the Plaza. I think it's called the Plaza Cinema, with lettering showing a film starring Rock Hudson, which has a relevance later in the episode. And all the trappings, the cars and signage and stuff that convinces you that it's 1952 Miami. And bearing in mind, this is a location I'm very familiar with. I was just taken in. I believe that this was Miami in the 1950s. The Doctor and Belinda see lots of flowers that have been left outside the chained up cinema. People have gone missing. They walk across to a nearby diner and discover that 15 patrons of the cinema disappeared a few months earlier. What the story does very well at these points, these quiet moments, are address the elephant in the room in regard to the Doctor and Belinda. As people of colour in the 1950s in America, a very different world, and the issues of segregation are very subtly dealt with, and Belinda's shock that black people weren't allowed in certain places at certain times. And, you know, this was only 50 odd years ago, and I think it sort of shows us how we have moved on to an extent. But this is something that the Doctor takes in his stride, of course. He is now a black man, and he's come across this before in earlier episodes. He is conscious of it, but he shrugs it off in a way. He doesn't inform him and the way he behaves and what he has to do. Although Belinda is keen to get back in the TARDIS and get the hell out of Dodge, they actually go into the cinema. The Doctor uses his sonic to break into the cinema, which is deserted. The cinema curtain opens up and Mr. Ringerding appears. And here again, incredible kudos to the fantastic animation of Mr. Ringerding, done by the Frame Store, I believe, animation company, which just looks like a classic Disney animated character, one of those things that you would see in those early 1950s, 60s animations, this anthropomorphic creature, which is sort of humanoid, yet not quite human, blue skin, singing and dancing, very benign, very friendly, but with a very dark heart. And it's the dark heart that comes back to make the Doctor and Belinda suffer later on in the episode. What the episode does as well, it builds upon this idea of the pantheon of gods who are tormenting the Doctor at the moment, going back to the Toymaker, going back to Maestro in the Devil's Cord, and going back to Sutekh, all creatures that are connected and referenced visually in this episode. And I think the script very cleverly layers that so that people don't necessarily have to have seen all those episodes to be aware of what all this means, and there's history to it all. And I like the fact that we've got this pantheon of gods, but it doesn't dominate every episode. It's in the background and they reappear. And that's a sort of constant threat that the Doctor is clearly aware of and knows that he will have to face down at some point. The Doctor and Belinda meet the projectionist. And again, what I liked here is that he's not just a projectionist who's sort of stuck there. He has a reason to be there. His wife passed away a few years ago in a road traffic accident of some sort. But Mr. Ringerding has brought her back to life on celluloid so he can interact with her. And that's an incredibly poignant moment for quite a supporting character. And it's a nice quiet moment in the mayhem of Mr. Ringerding coming to life and all this sort of stuff. To have this character beat, which I really appreciated with this character, it's really very well done. Ringerding continues to torment the Doctor and Belinda. He turns them into cartoons, which again, fantastically done. Really, the animation is just top notch. It's a different style of animation to Mr. Ringerding. It's a little more primitive, but there's a reason for that, as the Doctor and Belinda try to undo the fact that they're cartoons. And then a moment which had me hooting is where the Doctor and Belinda climb out of a screen and find themselves in this sitting room, rather stereotypical Doctor Who fans. They've all got Doctor Who t-shirts on. One's got a Unit t-shirt on. One's got a Meep t-shirt on. One's got a Talos Tomb of the Sidemen t-shirt on. One's wearing a Tom Baker scarf. And this is really clever because this... I think some fans will take offence at this and think that they're being laughed at because there is one of the characters actually shouts R.I.P. Doctor Who, which I thought was really funny. But what it actually does, it references the fact that Doctor Who has fans and that Doctor Who's fans can be a bit weird, but that Doctor Who's fans are, in a way, the show's strength as well because they help the Doctor and Belinda out of the situation they're in. And they appear to sacrifice themselves because they know that they are fictional representations created by Ringerding. And again, I think this is a case that this will be completely misconstrued by Doctor Who fans, that portion of Doctor Who fans will scream and gnash their teeth and moan that they're being victimised and having the mickey taken out of them. It's anything but such is life. It does remind me of things like Love and Monsters. Again, a very misunderstood episode from season 2 back in 2006, which was all about Doctor Who fans and the obsession of fans, but in a very warm and affectionate sort of way. But again, fans didn't understand that episode at all. The whole thing builds to a really epic conclusion with Mr. Ringerding draining power out of the Doctor so he can become alive, and he turns into this quite nasty sort of monstrous creature, reminding me of something like the Killer Clowns from Outer Space sort of look, and he eventually transcends, shall we say, and I won't go into any more depth for people who haven't seen it yet. I just thought this was absolute genius. I don't think I could fault it really. Everything, the script was on point, Russell's writing was really sharp. I really liked this characterisation with the Doctor and Belinda. She's warming to him now, she's becoming more affectionate towards him, but she still wants to get home. And Ncuti, I think, is now delivering a much better performance. You still get these flamboyant moments because he is a flamboyant actor, he's a flamboyant man. So he's going to do all the high kicking and the laughing and the joking, and there will be more weeping. That's this Doctor. And if people have a problem with that, I don't know what to say. That's what he has brought to this character. And I think in this season, you're seeing more of him as the Doctor, and the sequence where he's talking about the pantheon of the gods and these creatures who have power. That, to me, has finally sort of nailed his Doctor and defined his Doctor. People always talk about the defining moment of a Doctor, a defining speech or a defining scene. People often reference the scene in Ark in Space where the Doctor's talking about the indomitable human beings out into the universe. And this particular scene with Ncuti got the character, just the Doctor talking about these creatures. And it was just a stunning piece of acting. And I think he's really found the character now. But with all the extravagances that he had in the first season, but slightly dialed back. And if, as is now heavily rumoured, he's leaving at the end of this season, I think this season will justify his casting. I wasn't so sure last year. I wasn't completely convinced. But I really enjoyed his performance last week. And of course, his performance in this episode was stratospheric. It's a magnificent episode. As I said, I cannot fault it. Normally, faults in Doctor Who episodes sort of jump out. You go, ooh, ow, I didn't like that. I didn't like this line of dialogue. But it dealt with so many great moments. I mean, there's the reference to Rock Hudson, which is really tenderly done. The moment where one of the boys, Tommy Lee, in the cinema, they're talking to his mother in the diner, and she talks about how she wants to find him. She doesn't know what's happened to him. She comes back every night. These little grace notes on these very minor supporting characters, so really nicely judged in a fairly fast-paced 43-minute episode. I just thought it was absolutely superb. And I would be very interested to hear what you out there think of it. Let me know. Leave a comment down below. Once again, I have to say, please don't be abusive. Please don't be stupid. I did put the filter on last week and then I turned it off. I thought, well, I'll let people comment. And I only had one comment that I had to delete. And that was the incredibly creative, it was shit. So if you're thinking of posting something like that, don't bother. Please don't bother, because it will just get deleted sooner or later. Hopefully sooner, because I do try to keep an eye on the comments as much as I can. So don't bother posting stuff like that, because I just don't care if you think that. If you didn't like it, tell me why you didn't like it. Give me constructive, creative reasons why. But don't just post abuse, because that's pointless. And I will also say that anybody who says they didn't like this episode, this really exposes all these internet people, because I'm sure they're all out there, these various people. Doctor Who, woke crap, worst episode ever, terrible, shocking. That exposes them as liars, because I do not believe anybody who says they did not love this episode. And I don't mean like it. Very often, Doctor Who, can be Marmites. You can like it, you can dislike it. I do not believe anybody who didn't think this was a masterpiece, because I genuinely think it was a masterpiece, not just of Doctor Who, but of television in the 21st century. So please let me know what you thought of it. Leave your comments down below. As I said, let's keep them sensible. Let me know what you thought of it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I'm sure they'll all be positive, because I just can't imagine that they wouldn't be. And my rating for Lux is going to be, 10 out of 10. Massive 10 out of 10, because I genuinely couldn't fault a frame of it, and I can't wait to watch it again. Right, thank you for watching. Thank you once again for your forbearance. Videos are still a bit irregular on the channel, but I'm going to get back into a rhythm in the next week. Tomorrow on Sunday, I will finally, hopefully, if I get it done, is a video I'm very excited to do, which I think I hinted at in my Wolfman review, which is going to be of the 1970-71 classic children's sci-fi adventure Time Slip. I've done lots of research on it, and I've got lots of interesting things hopefully to say about it. And as I mentioned, I think in the Wolfman video, I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of how it's a really important show to me in terms of my interest in science fiction and time travel in particular. That's hopefully coming up tomorrow on Sunday. So that's me and Lux. Brilliant! So like and subscribe if you're new here. It'd be great to have you on board. I will see you soon. Until I do, keep taking the stuff.